You're not lazy, you're lost. And there's a profound difference between the two. Lazy means you don't care. Lost means you've forgotten asterisk. Why asterisk you should. Most people walking through life today, they're not lazy. They're exhausted. Mentally, emotionally, spiritually. They wake up, already tired, not because they didn't get enough sleep, but because nothing they do feels like it matters anymore. You tell yourself you need more motivation. You watch the videos, you read the books, you repeat the quotes, but deep down you know it's not about motivation, it's about meaning. When your life loses its direction, every single step feels heavy, every task feels pointless. You find yourself procrastinating, not because you're weak, but because your mind is resisting the very act of moving towards something it doesn't believe in. The Stoics understood this thousands of years ago. They said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." But they also knew that mastery begins with knowing what's worth mastering in the first place. You can't wake up with fire in your chest if you don't know where you're going. You can't be disciplined in a life that feels empty. So before you blame yourself, before you label yourself as lazy, ask this simple question: what have I lost sight of? Maybe it's your purpose, maybe it's your curiosity, or maybe it's just the simple, fundamental feeling that your days mean something. There was a time when you did things because you cared. You played, you created, you explored it for a reward, not for recognition, but because life itself felt interesting. But somewhere along the way, that light went out. The world taught you to trade your curiosity for productivity, your meaning for efficiency. You started measuring your worth in results, not in presence. And when those results stopped coming, so did your energy. You're not lazy. You're just disconnected from what once made you feel alive. When the Stoics spoke about discipline, they weren't talking about punishment or self-flagellation. They meant alignment, living in harmony with what is essential. Seneca famously said, "If a man knows not to which port he sails, no wind is favorable." And that's the absolute truth. Without a clear direction, every effort feels like a struggle. So, maybe it's not motivation you need. Maybe it's clarity. What do you truly value? What matters to you when nobody is watching? What kind of life do you want to look back on and be able to say, "Yes, that was mine"? When you start asking those kinds of questions, something begins to shift. You start to see how much of your energy was wasted just fighting yourself, forcing discipline without any direction, chasing goals you never truly chose for yourself. You don't need to do more asterisk. You need to do what asterisk matters, asterisk. And that is the hardest part, because finding meaning requires stillness. It requires you to stop running long enough to actually listen. You have to face the silence you've been so desperately avoiding. The one that whispers, "Is this really the life I want?" That silence is uncomfortable, yes, but it's also sacred. It's the space where direction is born. Maybe your path isn't supposed to look like everyone else's. Maybe what you've been calling laziness is actually your soul rejecting a life that doesn't fit. The Stoics believed in living according to nature, not the world's expectations, but your own inner truth. To live with purpose, you must first live as yourself. When you rediscover that, discipline stops feeling like a cage. It becomes devotion. You no longer have to force yourself out of bed. You rise because something inside you is calling you forward. And that's the moment you realize you were never broken. You were only disconnected. Reconnect with what you love. Reconnect with who you are when no one is judging you. Reconnect with the small, quiet things that once gave your days color: the morning light, the sound of rain, the feeling of creating something just because you can. Meaning isn't found in some grand achievement. It's built in awareness. It grows when you live with intention, when you stop asking, "What asterisk should asterisk I do?" and start asking, "What feels asterisk right asterisk to do?" It's so easy to forget that your worth isn't tied to how productive you are. You are not a machine. You are a mind, a body, a soul, searching for harmony. So, the next time you find yourself lying in bed, calling yourself lazy, just stop, take a breath, and ask instead, what am I avoiding? What am I missing? What am I craving that my current life isn't giving me? Sometimes, the answer isn't more effort, it's more honesty. Because when you finally admit that you're lost, you can finally start finding your way again. You don't have to have everything figured out. You don't need a perfect plan. You just need a direction that feels true. Start small. One single act of honesty. 1 hour spent on something that truly matters to you. One step toward a life that feels like your own. That's how purpose returns, not in a blinding flash of inspiration, but in quiet, steady consistency. And slowly, your energy comes back, your focus sharpens, your days start to make sense again. You realize discipline isn't about control, it's about love. A love for what you're building, a love for who you're becoming. And that love is stronger than motivation will ever be. So know you're not lazy, you're searching. And maybe that's the most human thing of all, because every soul that ever found meaning started in the exact same place, lost, tired, and just brave enough to keep walking anyway. Thank you for watching. If this resonated with you, consider subscribing for more content like this. Take care.